Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I am pleased to be joined by Marisa Wolf, author of the brand new novel Beyond Enemies
Yay.
from Baen Books. Marissa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me again, Jonathan.
So, the first question I always ask authors in this is about your pitch for the book. How would you, it was your elevator pitch for Beyond Enemies?
Yeah, so age-old tale of a girl and her AI. It used to be a girl and her tank, but Jonathan's advice was spot on. So it's a girl and her AI who are fighting a war for most of their life and then realize that the war they thought they were fighting isn't the actual war, and they need to decide what, if anything, they're going to do about it.
That's a good pitch. I appreciate well one thing I'll pause and say one thing I appreciate is that you read my review and I was positive, but I also had a few
You did.
negatives and you were very, respectful and we've been able to have a good back and forth about that. So I appreciate that. Not all authors are able to take that. So
Well, I mean, one, you are very insightful, and you were very thoughtful about the overall approach. You weren't like, this is terrible. You're like, this I really
right.
liked. This didn't work for me the way I wanted it to. This I really liked. And, overall it's positive,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah. And as a whole, like, yes, I mean, as long as you overall enjoyed it, you weren't sad that you spent this time with B and Talon. I am
No,
good.
it was great. So speaking of which, let's start with the first question, which is
Yeah.
Talon and Bee are the two primary characters, the girl and her AI.
Mhm.
How did you come up with those two characters for this book?
Yes. So first, I wrote a short story in Chicks and Tank Tops called Next Question, where you meet a version of them, and they're fun. Their voices, their interaction, just kind of cemented in my head. So I wrote that short story, and then 6 months later, I was still hearing their banter in my head. So it was pretty good sign that I needed to do more. So they came out of a little bit of the Dragon Rider relationship and Anne McCaffrey's Pern,
Hmm.
and a lot of the idea of genuinely how could we effectively use AI in warfare? How can we get an artificial intelligence or synthetic intelligence to understand kill these people, totally cool. Kill these people, real bad.
Hmm.
So the idea of it having to be hosted in a human brain is sort of where that all came from.
And it made it interesting because the AI isn't the tank, but the AI isn't, Talon. The AI is separate, but it is connected to the others. And that just, provided because it's all too simple to make it just that the AI is the robot or that
Right.
the AI is the person that masquerades as as a human. So I liked that because that added a layer of complexity to the story. Um, you mentioned that you wrote the short story for Chicks and Tank Tops for Baen. How did you get involved with Baen? Had you been a reader of Baen books before you became an author?
Yes. So I've been reading Bane books since I was a preteen. It was one of those, I tell this story sometimes. Most of my reading came from used bookstores and the library. And so the used bookstore, I had like $5. Like I had to make the most of
Hmm.
every purchase. And anytime I saw that little rocket ship, I
Yep.
knew I was going to get a really good story. So those were usually my if I couldn't find an Anne McCaffrey book, I could find a rocket ship book, I was good to
Hmm.
go. And if I could find an Anne McCaffrey rocket ship book, well, that was
Yes,
awesome.
exactly.
This is amazing. So I started off that way, and then in terms of writing, my first opportunity with Baen was in Michael Z. Williamson's Freehold Resistance. I got a chance. I got to audition for a short story, and then I got to write a short story for that. And he was so just genuinely kind and insightful, and um, really helpful with his feedback. And so I feel like that made me a better writer. And then I was also, responsive to feedback, which is a thing editors like.
Hmm.
And so I got a couple other opportunities, and I was put up for some opportunities that I was not ready for. So there was an anthology that my name was on the list, and I was like, no, she's not quite ready. But then a couple years later, when Jason Cordova was doing Chicks and Tank Tops, I was actually requested. So it was
Oh,
like a fun,
nice.
like keep sticking with it, keep writing and practicing, and you know, things will happen.
That is so nice that I mean, I don't think that any other publisher turns out as many anthologies as Baen does. And I think what really, even though those don't sell as well, what those do is it gives them an opportunity to test out authors and also to
Yeah.
give authors the opportunity just to practice, even if it's not for, a huge payday. It's a good
Yes.
practice of getting your name out there, writing things down, seeing how people react. So I
Yeah.
do appreciate that they did that because you're now able that
Sure. Yeah.
led all the way to this.
Very exciting.
Um, uh, my next question I have for you is how did you get the book to have the military feel?
Mhm.
Because I don't believe you served, is that right?
I did not.
But
That's
but
correct.
yet you really get a good handle on how military life is like. And so did you have to do a lot of research for that, or did it come more naturally because you know a lot of military people? How did that work?
Yeah, I have been incredibly lucky in just in general and the people that I know. And then so many of the people I know are active military or are veterans. And so making sure that they felt accurately represented, in a futuristic setting, but that they felt like honored and not like, who is this civilian? Like, why is she doing this? Was really, really important to me. So, like I said, thankfully, I know a bunch of them. So I have a variety of services and physicians and enlisted and officers and all kinds of things to kind of get as much of a vibe as I can. And then I was incredibly lucky to have two veteran alpha readers who were able to go through and be like, spot on, spot on, spot on, maybe tweak this. Yep, 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 which was very helpful.
That is that is very nice. I live in an area that has a military base, like, right behind my house. And
Hmm.
so like I'd say probably about a third or half the kids at my school, their parents are military, so I interact with military people all the time. And so
Yeah,
I really I've as a teacher, I've been able to understand them more, and
yeah,
so I appreciate military stories more. And I think
yeah.
that this works really well for that.
Cute.
Um, my next question has to deal with writing the various planets because this book it's not necessarily planet hopping, but
Mm-hmm.
you visit a
Yeah.
few planets in this
Yes.
and you go on a few spaceships.
Mhm.
How did you go about the world building part of it for planning each of the planets? Did you do the more aspect of just writing the characters and stuff and the planet just formed around them, or did you plan out all the planet stuff and then start writing the plot?
Oh my gosh, I wish I still had this notebook next to me. So it's a little bit of both. Like one, I always start with the characters. And that is part of why it really mattered to me that you enjoyed Talon and B. Like more than anything
Hmm.
else. I want you to
Oh yeah,
enjoy your whole time with them, sure.
right.
But the characters are really that's really my jam. And so I knew exactly who they were and I knew almost exactly what they were gonna do. They only surprised me a couple times. But the planets were sort of a little bit like, okay, well now I need this kind of thing. How could I make this work? What could this be? And I have this like graph paper where I charted the different planets and what I wanted them to do and what I wanted them to be like. And I went into way more detail than I included in the final draft that you all have in the book in front of you. There were some histories of planets that were unnecessary. So it was the after effect, but I got a little detailed with it.
Okay, okay. I'm curious about the editing and also writing process
Hmm.
of the book. And I
Yeah.
heard you mention this both when we talked before and also on other places you've been, that you
Hmm.
basically wrote the book twice.
I
I am
did.
very interested. What was that process like? And how did you feel going into the second one? And did you write it faster or slower than you did the first one?
Yeah. So first time I wrote the book, I felt really, really good about the whole first part. The whole first part where a lot of things happen that I can't tell you about until you read it,
Yeah.
but Jonathan knows. I felt really good about that. I felt very, very good about how it ended. The middle, I went wildly off the outline, and I thought I can solve the problem by putting more words, and I just kept putting more words, and shockingly, that doesn't fix the issue.
Hmm.
And so when I submitted it, it was 135,000 words, I think, which is longer, I promise, than what you get. And Tony's incredible. Like she's very good at what she does. Tony's response was, "I love the beginning. I love Talon. I love B. The middle gets a little too introspective. We need to do something about that." And I was like, "Yes." The middle was mush. It was like somebody who worked out real hard at the beginning, then kind of gave up for 20 years in the middle of their life, and then got back into it at retirement. So I broke out post-it notes, and I wrote what happened in each chapter summary on post-it notes. and I spread it out across my table. I have pictures of this. And then I started crossing things out, moving things around, reshaping it. And so I know the middle isn't your favorite part of the book, but it is such a tighter version in the second. In the first, it's like, now I guess we'll go over here. Here's a fun adventure. Now we're gonna go over to this place, and as opposed to we're doing a thing, we got to do the thing, and it's gonna take some stops, but this is the through line. So I knew it had to happen. The second I read Tony's feedback, I knew exactly what she was talking about. And yes, it went much faster the second time, but it involved the sacrifice of many brave post-its.
Okay. Do you know what the final word count ended up being for the book?
115, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
yeah.
Um, do you have I want to take a quick second to talk about this beautiful
Oh
cover
my
that we
gosh.
got from
Yes,
Sam Kennedy.
he's
This is
amazing.
my camera's backwards, so I'll put it up on the screen for the audience. But oh, there we go. That looks good too. It's the cover art's by Sam Kennedy, and I'm curious about how the process is for cover art. Because some publishers I know the authors like they don't know until they get a copy in their hands, and then
Yeah,
some publishers the authors get actual involvement and they actually get to pitch what they want on it. I'm
yep.
guessing yours is somewhere in the middle where you found out about it and tweaked stuff. What was the process like working on this cover with Sam Kennedy?
Yeah. So Tony asked me what I wanted. And I told her I would defer to her expertise. And here's the thing I was thinking. It was so complicated. What I was thinking was not good. And I was like, I feel like this isn't good, but something like kind of like this. And she was like, okay. And so she worked with Sam Kennedy. Um, and I guess he only did two versions. He sent one, and the real difference was Talon had this like beautiful long flowing hair, like she was very
Hmm.
sci-fi, and her expression was a little bit more like cheerful. And Tony was like, two small things. And apparently Sam was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And he sent this back. She sent it to me. I made dolphin noises. Like I could not speak English. I woke my dogs up. I was so excited. It was so, I mean, it's so beautiful.
Hmm.
And it's so Talon. Like that just long yard stare where she's just kind of like, okay, well, this is life now. It was perfect. And then you got B setting off some fires and doing the good stuff. So I loved it so much. And then I saw the cover with my name on it for the first time at a Baen Roadshow.
Hmm.
And I cried in front of a lot of people. So,
I have to say, I'm really glad that they went with the version that they did
yeah,
because the bald look, well,
yeah.
not necessarily, the look I like the best,
I mean, sure.
it stands out.
Yeah,
It's so distinct. And I mean, I don't know how well it's going to come in video and on people's screens, but in the detail that Sam Kennedy put on here, you can see the writing
yeah,
that's on her forehead
yeah.
or on the side of her head. That's just, and then you see kind of a little bit of a dent in her head, but maybe she's been injured before. Like you see such detail in this thing that you really don't see anywhere else for cover art, at least in modern days. So I just keep gushing over the cover because
I'm with you. Yeah.
this is fantastic. I know some authors will try to buy prints of their cover art. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Oh, I very much want to. So we are just now, you can see it's kind of a mess behind me. We are just now off the road for the first time in 3.5 years. We've been living in an RV. And so now we're in a house. I'm like, I need a giant print of this.
Hmm.
I just need talent to look over everything I do. So yes, I very much want to do that.
I know that Brandon Sanderson, after he wrote Way of Kings, he said, I want to buy the actual painting that Michael
Oh
Whalen did.
man.
And they're like, that's gonna cost like all the money you made from this. And he's like, I don't care. I buy that
Yeah.
Michael Whalen painting. That's how I feel with this thing. It's
Yeah, it's beautiful. I totally love
um
it.
can we talk a little bit about the process of working with the themes of AI? So AI is a very hot topic,
Yeah.
very prevalent. Real quick, what years was the actual writing of this book happening?
That's a good question. 2021 to 2020, early 2022.
Okay, so you were right before that big wave
Uh,
of AI stuff came
mm-hmm.
in 2023. So you were kind of a little bit prescient on that. But uh, most authors would go the simple route of making the story, is AI good or not? But that's not where this story goes. This story is more about how AI works with humans
Hmm.
and how our government treats those humans that work with the AI.
Hmm.
So how did you go about working on those themes? And did you have like a set, this is where I want the audience to end up with these ideas?
Hmm.
Or did you want to leave it more open-ended for audiences to think about?
Yeah, I subscribe to the old Heinlein approach of like step one, my job is to entertain. Step two, if I do a good job of entertaining, maybe I help my reader think about something.
Hmm.
Step three, maybe I'm giving, three is way down the list. Maybe I'm giving my opinion. And so my goal in this was one, to entertain, and two, to be like, wouldn't this be interesting? Let's think about this. And so I didn't really have a goal for, I want my readers to walk away thinking X or Z. I wanted them going away thinking like, oh, B. That's what I want you to think at the end of the book. Um, and I want you to be thinking about how we define humanity and why,
Hmm.
more than to have like a solid opinion on AI, because we're not making bees right now. We are making defense arrays. Um, sort of.
If you've read the book, you will
Yeah,
understand that reference.
yeah, yeah, please enjoy. um so yeah, so I did a lot of reading about AI. I made this joke the other day, but like I watched Terminator a lot. Like I grew up in the
Hmm.
80s, right? Like there's a lot of movies about like, sorry Dave, I can't do that. Like there's a lot about AI going bad. I'm nice to Google on purpose. But like, and so for this it was more about um unpacking the conspiracies, and then also the way we forget things. So constant war is really easy if we can ignore it. That was more front and center for me, I think, than the ethics of AIs.
Right. So this next question, I am going to have to be deft in my questioning, and you're going to have to be deft in your answering.
Oh, okay.
The There are two twists, I would say major twists in the
Yep.
book.
Mm-hmm.
One towards the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure you know what I'm referring to,
Yep.
and one towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say the twist towards the beginning, I refer to in my review as a paradigm shifting twist,
Mm.
because that completely changes the, not only the book's paradigm, but the character's paradigm as well of how they view the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with specifically with the first one, because we can't say what that is.
Very much, yeah.
How how did you go about planning that twist? And was that in early editions of the book, or did that come later on in the process?
I knew right away.
Okay,
Um,
good.
yeah, so that was a whole thing. There are little comments leading up to it, because they knew exactly what I wanted to do with that. So yes, I knew that one right away. And the second one, I also knew right away, but for a different reason. So yeah, the first one, to answer your question, was planned the entire time.
Okay. Was the second one planned too, or did that come in
So the
later?
second one was after I wrote Next Question. I realized that something I had pitched in its very, very early stages at my very first LibertyCon was actually this universe, and I could layer them in. And then I had already written the first all caps confrontation. Um, let's
Hmm.
say, when I
Yep.
realized, oh wait. And so I had to go back and tweak those to make sure that it still led in the direction I needed it to lead.
Right. I had just gotten through I was, reading through, and B's voice is in italics. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'd gotten used to that as I was reading. And then all of a sudden, you have a line of B's that is italics, and then you have a line that is in all caps. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, is B yelling? And then my eyes
Yeah.
got wide, and I was like, no, that's not B. And
Yes.
so I thought that was great, because that shocked me. So I appreciated
Oh,
that.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Um, I that must be difficult like in marketing a book when you have a twist that big that you
Mm-hmm.
can't
Can't
really. I
tell
mean,
you.
you could tell people, but I mean,
Yeah.
it would take away the experience of the shock
Yes.
of it. I had to go through my review and comb it to make sure I didn't accidentally
I
use.
appreciate that. Yeah.
There was one word I was like, if I
Mm-hmm.
use this, it's game
Yeah.
over. It
Yeah.
spoils it. So I had to make sure I didn't use that word. which is partially why I only referred to one of the characters as OT.
Hmm.
Um,
I
uh,
love it. I
I
love it.
thank you so much for giving us that nickname. Oh, that was so helpful. But I so how has that been in the marketing? Do you find yourself just leaning more talking about the tank and the AI stuff, or because that's just from someone who hasn't had to market a book that I just
Yeah.
fascinating to me.
Yeah, so I talk a lot about that, and then I talk about how it's like it's conspiracies all the way down, right? Like
Yeah.
Discworld is turtles
Hmm.
all the way down. This is this is conspiracies all the way down. So like you open one pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And you're like, okay, here's a conspiracy, but she said conspiracies all the way down. So there's, at least one more. Um so and that's mostly how I talk about it. And I hope in like a couple of months, I hope everyone has read it and so I can talk a little bit more about it, but yeah.
Okay. And then if you had to say if like sometimes when people are pitching things, they'll say, I'm a fan of if you're a fan of this book or this series or this author, that type of thing, I think you'll
Mhm.
like this. How would you do that? Do you have an author? I have an author in series, a couple's in my mind, but I want to see what you would have as well.
I want to hear yours too. I very much want to hear yours. That'll help. So, Tony, at the very first, at last LibertyCon, where we talked about Beyond Enemies, and she had the book in front of her. She put in the slideshow like, "Hey, if you like Marisa Wolf, you might like this guy David Weber," which is hilarious.
Hmm.
But then she's like, "But for real, if you love David Weber, you're going to enjoy Marisa's books. Please read them." I again
Okay.
cried. I very much cried, because David Weber. So I would like to compare myself to an early David Weber. I am not the master of the craft that he is. I would like to get there. But the focus on these amazing character part, like I think I still have growing to do in giant space battles. But in terms of like having good anchor characters, I feel solid there. And the banter of the other part of yourself, I definitely was influenced by Anne McCaffrey. So
Okay. I could see the pitch being that Talon is kind of like the tank version of Honor Harrington, where Honor Harrington is very system's broken, I'm gonna fix it from within, and
yeah,
Talon is the system's broken, I'm gonna fix it from without.
I'm gonna break it. Yeah, I'm gonna break it
Yep,
more
I'm gonna
and
break
help.
it.
Yep.
Exactly. I like that. No, I had the tank element reminded me a little bit of some like the Bolo series and the Hammer
I
Slammer
do love
series.
those. Yes.
But the discussions about AI
Hmm.
and characters not being in the military stuff, that really made me think about stuff like Gareth Edwards's movies. I really
Oh.
was thinking of both Rogue One. I
Hmm.
had the graininess of Rogue One in my mind when I
Sure.
was reading this. And then
Hmm.
also I had his new movie, The Creator, which of course deals with AI, but
Hmm.
also deals with some of the more ethical questions of it that this book also deals with. So that's what I had. I
Cool.
had Bolo, Hammer Slammers, and Gareth Edwards in my mind.
That's a pretty awesome trifecta. Thank you. I will.
Mhm.
I will accept that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have? I know you've co-written other novels
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
others. I believe you've worked with Chris Kennedy's publishing team. Can you talk about just basically talk about where you can find those works and anything else you've got going on right now?
Yes, you can find any of my books on that Amazon place. All of the Four Horsemen universe books, which is my six co-authored novels, those are all on Kindle Unlimited for the moment. They might go wide in the near future. They're all on Amazon. Beyond Enemies, all of the Baen anthologies that I'm in, you can find anywhere that sells books. And you can also go to my website, which is marisawolf.net or marisawolf.com because I got them both.
Nice. That's ooh, you were quick on that. That's
Yeah.
good. Like it. Um, and then for social media, which social media do you recommend people follow you on?
Yeah, if you like books, but you also really like dogs, you should follow me on Instagram. I'm at Book Dogs. All the Marisa Wolves were taken, which I think there's only three of us. So good job,
But Book
ladies.
Dogs wasn't
Book
taken?
Dogs, what I know.
What?
Oh, I was pretty excited about that one. So I got that on lock. So come hang out with me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter sometimes, but I usually forget about it because it doesn't work on my phone anymore.
Oh.
I know, right? And then the usual place for middle-aged people, I'm on Facebook too. So you can come find me there.
Really quick, the
Mhm.
thing with that I saw on Facebook with David Weber. Has that been that's public, right?
That's real. Yeah,
Do
it's
you want
public.
to tell people
Yeah.
what that is?
Yeah. So yeah, I read Honor Harrington starting in high school. And I love it. And I love the whole universe. I think David Weber is amazing. And in the near future, I get to write an Honor Harrington book with David Weber. So we'll be taking up the Crown of Slaves spinoff. So I will be doing my very best to honor Eric Flint and his memory and his talent and his amazingness, and also honor and punning now. It's David's fault, I'm sure. And also, of course, honor the universe that David has created and that he and Eric worked on. So really excited about that. And according to David, also we are approved to continue in the path of the Fury. So we will be working on the
Oh,
Fury books.
okay. I
Yeah,
hadn't heard that part, so
yeah.
that's
He posted that one a couple days later. So
oh good. Good
it's
to
pretty
know.
cool.
I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw that, and I was like, oh, wait, what?
I know.
That's okay.
I
That
know.
happens a lot with David's announcements. It's kind of burying the lead. He's just kind of like, "Oh yeah, we got this." I was in an interview with him at Dragon Con,
Uh-huh.
and we're just talking, and he says, "Oh, by the way, I contracted this guy Jacob Hollow. He's going to write some books for this series for me." And I said, is he supposed to say that?" And Tony was in the other room, and she said, "Well, he's saying it now, so too late."
Yep. David Weber. He is the master of the universe.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Jacob Hollow's books are incredible. So yeah, I'm
I
excited.
have the first one that he did with David, the
Okay.
Gordian Protocol, to read
Yeah.
next.
Nice, nice, nice. I think you're gonna enjoy it.
Good. So, so you can find Beyond Enemies on Amazon and other places, and you can go to all those places to check out Marissa Wolf on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. But until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.